إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. أما بعد، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. ثم أما بعد، يا عباد الله، الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام والسنة. All praise and thanks belong to Allah for guiding us to Islam and for guiding us to the Sunnah. We continue going over and reflecting on some important lessons in light of the Quran and Sunnah. And we are focusing on 10 traits of good character, 10 traits of good behavior, of good manners. And we have reached the eighth trait of good character and of good manners. Before getting into it, I just want to remind all of us of the completeness of the Deen of Al-Islam, and that its guidance is complete. In every aspect of our lives, we find guidance. We find religious instruction. This is a ni'mah, bila shak wa bila raib. This is that from that bounty in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us. Allah ta'ala, He says, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. And on this day I have perfected for you your religion, completed my favor upon you, and I am pleased for you Islam as a way of life, as a deen. We have guidance in every aspect of the deen, walillahi alhamd. This is something that we have to constantly be grateful unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, and constantly thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guiding us to Islam and for guiding us to the Sunnah. Eighthly, the author, he says, حفظه الله تعالى, الثامن, eighthly, إذا انتهيت إلى مجلس فسلم. When you reach a gathering, then give salams. When you reach a gathering, then give salams. واجلس حيث ينتهي المجلس, and sit down where the majlis, where the gathering has ended. So you sit down in the first available space. ولا تجلس بين الشمس والظل, and do not sit while your body is between the sun and the shade, meaning a portion of your body is in the sun and a portion of your body is in the shade. Now, ولا تفرق بين اثنين إلا بإذنهما, and do not separate between two people. Don't come between two people except by their permission. وَلَا تُقِمْ أَحَدًا مِنْ مَجْلِسِهِ, and do not make anyone get up from where they are sitting. Do not make anyone get up and move their seat so as to accommodate you. وَافْسَحْ لِمَنْ دَخَلْ, and make room for those who have entered after you. وَاذْكُرِ اللَّهَ فِيهِ, and remember Allah throughout the gathering, throughout the sitting. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَقَلُّهُ كَفَّارَتُهُ, and the least of what one could remember Allah with is the kaffara, is the expiation of the sitting. فَاتَّقُولُ, so thus say, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. And that is the dua in which the Prophet ﷺ taught us to say at the ending of a sitting, or at the end of a sitting. All glory belongs unto Allah. He is far above and removed from any imperfections and or deficiencies. All praise and thanks belong unto Allah. I testify that there is none that has the right to be worshipped except for you. I seek refuge, or I ask your forgiveness, and I repent unto you. And I repent unto you. Ala kulli hal, the author, he mentions, he says, and the sharih, and also the explainer, he mentions, ذكر مصنف وفقه الله الأدب الثامن من الآداب العشرة وهو يتعلق بآداب المجلس. He says that the author, may Allah Ta'ala give him tawfiq, he mentions the 8th characteristic, or the 8th trait of good character and of good behavior from the 10 traits of good behavior and good character and good manners. And it is connected to the mannerisms, the protocols, the etiquette of the gatherings. The etiquette of the gatherings. Naam. وَفِيهِ ثَمَانُ مَسَائِلٍ, and inside of this issue we have 8 different affairs, 8 different things we want to highlight. Naam. So again, as always, I remind the viewing audience, I remind the listener to have a pen and a paper. Have a pen, have a paper, have something to write on. Your memo section of your digital device, whatever the case is. Have something to write down so that you may write down these benefits, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and you could record these benefits in which the Shaykh is going to mention, and these rules and regulations that are related to the sitting. And these things are important. Before going in, I just want to remind, these things are important. We have to have good manners, we have to have good etiquette, we have to exhibit this good behavior. And the only way to do that is that we have to learn. We have to learn what are the good behavior, what are the etiquettes and the protocols of sitting in a gathering, so on and so forth. What are the etiquettes and the protocols of various situations that we find ourselves in day to day, so that we know what is the guidance of Islam as relates to this particular affair and as relates to this particular situation, so that I may apply this guidance. And without studying the likes of these things, then we will be incapable of fulfilling and implementing the likes of these things. So it is of extreme importance that we take these things serious, because we all stress how having good manners is a must and is vital. We all stress how having good etiquette is a must and is vital. But if we don't learn what is good etiquette, then we will be incapable of bringing forth said etiquette. We will be incapable of implementing that behavior and of acting in accordance to those protocols. So it is incumbent that we learn these things now. And when we look at what the author, what the Shaykh, hafidhahullah ta'ala, what he presents things that are from everyday life. Now, as past lessons have shown us, the etiquettes of sneezing, the etiquettes of yawning, the etiquettes of giving salams, and so on and so forth, the etiquettes of knocking at a person's door and seeking entry into a room or entry into a house and the like. These are everyday things. And I'm saying all of that to say this, is that if we were unaware of these very basic everyday protocols and etiquettes, right? And we were unaware of this, then we have to ask ourselves, what are our priorities? How are we learning, right? Because bila shak wa bila rayb, we have to learn in accordance to what is most important. So at-tawheed, this is at the top of it. Naam, this is the most important thing, and this is where we start. Our aqidah, naam, this is where we start. Our minhaj, naam, this is where we start. These things are of extreme importance. Also, the fiqh in which we are involved in performing, from those things that are obligatory upon us as individuals, from the salah, from fasting, so on and so forth. We have to know the rules and regulations of these things inside and out. But also, when it comes to that, if you recall from previous lessons, the ulama, they explain that what is meant by the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم, that seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. They explain that what is meant by that is that those things in which are an individual obligation upon each and every individual, they have to know the rules and regulations as relates to them. Okay, so meaning those things that you deal with day in and day out, you have to know the rules and regulations of the deen of al-Islam as relates to them. So if you're an individual, you buy and you sell, right? Then you have to know what are the rules and regulations of Islam as relates to buying and selling. You're an individual, you married, you have to know what are the rules and regulations of the deen of al-Islam as relates to marriage. You're an individual, you have children, you have to know what are the rules and regulations as relates to the deen of Islam as relates to raising your children, right? You have to know these things. So the etiquettes of getting up in the morning and how you get up, right? The etiquettes of before going to sleep, how do you prepare for bed? How do you get ready to go to sleep? You have to know these things because you do these things day in and day out. Okay? You have to know these because you're involved in these things day in and day out. The etiquettes of leaving the house, the etiquettes of entering into the masjid. You have to know these things because you leave your house and you enter into masajid, right? And the like. So I don't want anyone to take these things as if they're not important and the like. They're very important because you're dealing with them day in and day out. And anything you deal with day in and day out, you have to know the rules and regulations of the deen of al-Islam as relates to them. Now, if there are things that you're dealing with day in and day out and you don't know the rules and regulations of Islam as relates to them, but then there are other affairs that are fi'lan, that are in actuality none of your business, but yet you're well versed in them, then we have to sit back and we have to ask you to reevaluate, because obviously your priorities are wrong. Obviously, your priorities, they are not correct, because you're dealing with things and you're grossly involved in things in which are none of your business to begin with, and things that are actually your business, you're clueless about. That's a problem. That's a problem. Ala kulli hal, the majlis is important because we go to gatherings where there are other people there. So we have to know what are the etiquettes, what are the rules and regulations. This could be whether that majlis is inside of a masjid, right? Like a person, they come into a class, for example, right? Or whether that majlis is inside of a classroom, or whether that majlis is inside of a office, like in a meeting, a conference room, and so on and so forth. There are etiquettes that has to be applied because this is from good manners. And it's incumbent that we know what are the rules and regulations of Islam as relates to the like of these affairs, because we're constantly entering into majalis. We're constantly entering into situations where people have gathered. Now, ala kulli hal. The first of them, the first affair from the 8 affairs in which the Shaykh he mentions here and he wants to highlight, he says, في المسألة الأولى, and the first of the issues في قوله is inside of the statement of the author, إذا انتهيت إلى مجلس فسلم, that when you have reached a majlis, and this is what is meant by إذا انتهيت, that when you have ended to a majlis. This is the word for word translation. When you have ended to a majlis, or when you have ended to a gathering. What does that mean, ended to a gathering? The Shaykh, he says, إذا بلغت مجلسا, meaning when you have reached a gathering. ووصلت إلى مجلسا, when you have reached a gathering. This is what is meant by when you end it to a gathering, meaning when you have reached a gathering. فإذا وصلت إليه, when you have reached it, فألقي السلام على أهله, then give salam into its people. Yani, give the salams to the people. Now, of course, if you're entering into a majlis that is from the majalis of the Muslims are gathered, right? Or if there are Muslims there, then when you reach there, you give the Muslims there salam. Now, when you reach there, you give the Muslims there salam. Now, when it comes to a gathering that is inside of the masajid, or a person, they come to a walima, or they come to an aqiqah, for example, and the Muslims have gathered, and they enter upon the Muslims. Then when you enter upon the Muslims, you say, Assalamu alaikum. This is, no one really has any ambiguities as relates to this, right? But now, what about if you enter into an office meeting? You enter into the conference room, right? And from your company, you have a few Muslims in your department. Or you have a few Muslims that are just there because maybe it's multi-departmental meeting, right? So you have Muslims that are there present, and then a bunch of kuffar there present as well. So now you enter into the room, right? What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to give the Muslim salam. Now, don't be like these weak marshmallow Muslims who's scared, to show the world that they're Muslim, who's scared to act like a basic Muslim, right? When you enter upon a majlis and you see the Muslims are there, then say unto the Muslims, Assalamu alaikum. Now, no one is going to say anything to you. No one is going to look at you in any or which type of way, and so on and so forth. And if you get some feedback for your deen, and of course, we're not saying if you give salams and somebody's going to pull out a gun and kill you. We're not talking about that, because we know the situation don't even reach like that. When you come inside a majlis and the Muslims are there, say unto the Muslims, Assalamu alaikum. And the Shaykh, he mentions, he says, فَأَكْمَلْ إِلْقَاءِ السَّلَامِ. And the most complete of giving of the greeting of salam is what we already took in previous lessons. And that is to say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Naam, to give the whole salam. That's the most complete. So if you come to the majlis, then say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Like, or you can say less than that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, or Assalamu alaikum. Nah, but give the salam to the Muslims in the gathering. Give the salam to the gathering of Muslims when you come to the gathering. This is from the proper etiquettes of coming to a gathering. And if you come to a gathering and you just merge into the gathering without giving salams to the Muslims, then this is an indication that you are a person who is ill-mannered. This is showing bad manners. Now, I'm just showing bad manners. If someone saw you do that and they knew better, then they will say this individual has bad manners. Now, so this is the first of the affair. Is that when you come into the majlis, when you reach the majlis, you give salams to the people of the majlis, you give salams to the Muslims who are there by saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And this is the most complete way. The second piece of etiquette, or the second thing that is linked to the etiquettes of the gathering, the second issue, then that is في قوله, is inside of the statement of the author, وَاجْلِسْ حَيْثُ يَنْتَهِي الْمَجْلِسِ, and sit at where the majlis has ended. Now, and he's going to explain what he means by this. اتخذ مكانا لجلوسك لجلوسك فيما انتهى إليه المجلس. Take a place to sit down where it is available. Now, where the gathering has ended, right, where it is available, then take a place to sit down. And he's going to explain why he used the phrase where the gathering has ended. Now, he's going to explain why he used that phrase, where the gathering has ended. ينتهي المجلس. What's meant by that? He says, فَإِنَّ النَّاسِ كَانُوا إِذَا جَلَسُوا انضَمَّ بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ. He said, because the people, when they used to sit down, they will sit one after the other, right? They will draw close to one another, and then they will sit one after another, almost as if in a chain, or like how you have dominoes, how one is stacked after the other. Then they will sit one after the other, or like a puzzle, right? Where every day is an open space, and somebody will sit. Then another open space, somebody will sit. So they were together, right? They will sit together, and this is how the general majalis are. Like, for example, inside of the masajid, this is how they should be, okay? Inside of the masajid, inside of the sittings of knowledge, you'll find the students like this, one after the other, they're sitting. Every little space, they take up, and they sit wherever it's available, so on and so forth. This is typically how it is. So this is why the Shaykh used that term where it has ended, because the people have one sat here and one sat here, then one sat behind them and one sat next to him and one sat here and one sat here, and you keep going back like the bricks on the wall. Then you will come in and you will sit at the first available space, right? Because that's where it has ended. So in other words, you're the next brick in that wall. You're the next ring in that chain. Okay, so you pick up where it left off. So this is what is meant by that verbiage. على كل حال ولم تكن العرب, the Shaykh mentions that the Arab traditionally they did not يجلس أحدها في الطرف والآخر في الطرف. They didn't sit in a majlis that one person will sit over here and another person sit over there. That's not how traditionally they will sit, but they will sit They will sit together. They will sit together near to one another, so on and so forth. So if you come to a traditional type of sitting where the people are sitting in close proximity to one another, then you will sit in the first open available space. This is where you will sit. Now, and this is when the people are sitting close knit, close to one another, then you will sit at the first available space. Now, فإذا جاء أحد إلى المجلس جلس قريبا مما ينتهي إليه المجلس. So if someone comes to this gathering, then you sit close to where the last person. You sit close to the nearest person where the opening is at, right? And this is regardless, and this shows you the beauty of the Deen of Islam, right? And from the good traits and characteristics of the Deen of Islam is because when it comes to the like of these affairs, we're all supposed to be together, right? And what happens, unfortunately, in a lot of the masajid, unfortunately, what happens is that you will find that the people, they segregate themselves. The people, unfortunately, they segregate themselves. One, they don't sit how they should sit. They don't sit the way in which the Sahaba used to sit with one another, right? So much so that it was said that if you were to take a blanket and to throw it up, it could cover all of them, because that's how they used to sit close to one another, right? Now, unfortunately, in some of the masajid, you will go and you will see the Arab, they will sit in this corner. You will see the African Americans, there will be a group of them over there. You'll see the Pakistani, Indo-Pakistani, be a group of them over there. Everyone separated, everyone far from each other, separated by these racial divides. And this is not correct, because this is not from our deen. This is not from the deen of Islam. But rather in the deen is that what? Is that we are all brothers, we are all together. Likewise, you don't see the rich ones sitting over here, the poor ones sitting over there, so on and so forth. No, we are all supposed to be together, regardless of your social status, regardless of your rank, regardless of your tax bracket, regardless of the color of your skin or the language in which you speak, so on and so forth. We sit together because we're brothers. Verily, the believers are brothers. The believers are like a wall. Now, that we support one another. You understand? Now, this is, and we support one another. What would you say? Like, to be there for support also, but we support one another physically as well. Like we're with each other. We pray, we heel to heel, shoulder to shoulder. We don't look and say, nah, I want to stand next to him, he black. I don't stand next to him, he white. No, we there together, white, black, red, yellow, whoever, everyone's sitting there praying together. Likewise, the majalis, we're supposed to be together, sitting together. So this evil habit that the Muslims have learned from the West of the segregation based upon racial divides and so on and so forth, throw that stuff out the window. It shouldn't be like that when you come to the masjid, that you find the Arab over there, and they speak in Arabic, and then you find the Americans over there, and they speak in English. You find the Indo-Pak over there, and they speak in, Bengali, or they speak in Urdu, or so on and so forth. No, come on, man. Everyone should be together, all together, sitting together. Everybody, regardless. You understand? This is the way it should be. This is the way it has to be. And when you come into a place and you see the Muslims sitting like that, this is an indication of what? Them people got bad manners. They got bad manners. They don't even know how to sit with each other. You understand? We gotta have good manners. So we have to break this nonsense where we see it. You sit next to whoever the first available space. You ain't worrying about that because that's your brother anyway. You understand? This is when you come to a majlis and they're sitting in a traditional manner. All right. Now we know that they have different type of majalis. They have different type of sittings. Okay. So what the Sheikh is mentioning from good manners is applicable to those traditional type of gatherings where everyone is sitting next to each other. But you have other type of majalis that are arranged. They're prearranged seating. They're prearranged seating. For example, so if a person comes into a lecture hall, for example, they come into a lecture hall you have prearranged seating, right? Or they come into a classroom. In a classroom, you have prearranged seating. You have desks, you have rows of chairs, and so on and so forth. So if you come into a situation like this, then this rule does not necessarily apply. With that meaning that you will sit at the end of where it comes in, because as is known, people typically in those type of situations, they don't sit in an orderly fashion, meaning the person doesn't take the first desk, then the second person come and take the second desk, then the other person come and take the third desk until that row is completed. Then they start a new row, and so on and so forth. Then they start a new row, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, if you happen to find that situation like that, then apply this rule. Then you sit in the first available space according to what you see they have done before you. So learn how to read the room. Okay. However, if they sit in a place where everyone just sits where they want to, so you have one person sitting over here, one person sitting over there, one person's right there, one person's in the back, person's in the middle. In that case, then you have the liberty to sit wherever you want to sit. Okay? So if you come in and you see the people are sitting in an unorganized way, untraditional way, where this one is in the right, that one's to the left, this one is in the north of the room, this one is in the south of the room, and so on and so forth, then in those scenarios, this protocol, this piece of etiquette would not apply. So in that situation, you will sit wherever you want to sit. Wherever is most convenient for you to sit, wherever you want to sit, then you will sit there. And that's fine. That's no problem. And this will not be an illustration of you having bad manners, because that is what that situation calls for. And that is what that situation allows. So that is no problem. That is okay. All right. Now, from that, I hope we can see and understand that Juyaanee, the affairs of the deen, right? The affairs of the deen, many of the affairs of the deen are what? They're not black and white. Many of the affairs of the deen are not black and white. You have affairs that are black and white. Let's not get that Juyaanee misconstrued. There are affairs of the deen that are black and white. Yes, Aqidah as black and white. The way we believe we believe the way Allah Ta'ala taught us, the way the Prophet ﷺ taught us. That's it. There is no wiggle room as relates to our belief. There is no wiggle room as relates to these affairs. Okay? The affairs that are tawqifiyya, the affairs that are tawqifiyya, there's no wiggle room as relates to that. We have a text, we act according to the text, and that's it. There's no wiggle room. Yes, that's black and white. Okay? But then you have other affairs of the religion. It's not black and white. There's room in it. There's room in it to do this or to do that. There's room in it, given upon and depending upon the situation. And it's incumbent that the Muslims understand this and have this type of wisdom. They have this type of wisdom and sophistication to understand that things are not black and white. In one situation, this would be the thing to do. Another situation, this would be the thing to do, depending upon the situation. Okay? And that's why you'll find the fatwa from the ulama as relates to rulings and so on and so forth will vary depending upon the situation. Now, as the famous principle, it goes, حُكْمُ شَيْءٍ فَرْعٌ عَنْ تَصَوُّرِهِ, that the ruling of something will be depending upon the way it is described. The ruling of something will be dependent upon the way it is presented, the way it is described. So if you go to the Sheikh, for example, and you describe a situation that's related to tangerines, when your situation is really related to oranges, what the Sheikh says is not applicable to you, because you didn't give him the real situation. You spoke about tangerines when your situation is about oranges. So what the Sheikh said don't apply to you, because what he said applied to people dealing with tangerines, not people dealing with oranges. And that's a silly example maybe, but so you can understand, right? So you can understand. Ala kulli hal, it's not black and white. Okay, it's not black and white. So depending on the situation. So therefore, the Muslim has to be one who's wise, one who can could come into and who can assess a situation, who could assess a gathering to see, oh, I see the people have been sitting like this. Okay, so let me go in and sit and pick up where he left off. If he comes and see it, oh no, the people, because listen, if the people have been sitting in an organized way, and now you come in and you sit all in left field, they're gonna look at you like this guy has no manners. What's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? You can't read the room. You can't see that everyone is sitting in an organized way, one after the other. You gonna come and sit all the way over there? What's wrong with you? Likewise, if they come into a gathering and the people are sit like a classroom, for example, and some are sitting in this row, some are sitting in that row, and that, and especially in situations where you don't have enough to really fill up the classroom, so the teacher says, okay, it's not it's not for everyone. Just take a seat, just take a seat wherever you want to. It's fine. And the teacher says that, okay, maybe you get there and the teacher didn't say, and you didn't hear the teacher say that because you got there late. But when you come into the situation, you see and you read the room and you see, oh, people are sitting all over the place. So in that situation, what do? You come in, you just grab a seat, take a seat. You don't come in there and say, no, everybody get up. You're supposed to sit in an orderly fashion. You finish the row first, and then you go. No, because then people are gonna say, what? This guy has no tact, man. You're gonna come in the room and start yelling and screaming, and what's wrong with you? You have no manners. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to be able to read the situation and then apply the appropriate rule. Right? And know when the rule applies and when it does not apply. It's very important. The third issue that is linked to sitting, and this is particularly when you're sitting in an outside venue, right? Is that is inside of the statement of the author where he says, وَلَا تَجْلِسْ بَيْنَ الشَّمْسِ وَالظِّلِّ, and do not sit between the sun and the shade, meaning do not sit while a portion of your body is in the sun and then a portion of your body is inside of the shade. And the author, he mentions, he says, and this is due to the prohibition as it comes from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting like this, when a portion of your body is in the sun and a portion of your body is in the shade. Now, and we'll come to that hadith, but before coming to that, right, the Shaykh, he points out, he says, وَرُوِيَ أَنَّهُ مَجْلِسُ الشَّيْطَانِ, and it has been, there's some narrations that come that say that this type of sitting is the sitting of shaitan, to sit where a portion of your body is in the shade and a portion of your body is in the sun. Then this is how the shaitan sits. And the Shaykh, he mentions, he says, وَالْأَحَدِيث يعني لا يثبت منها شيء, but from these narrations, there are none of them are affirmed. None of them are affirmed, right? So we have no dalil to say that this is from the majlis of the shaitan. We have no dalil to say this because none of that is affirmed, okay? However, when it comes to the prohibition of sitting like this, then this is confirmed. This is confirmed. As it comes in the hadith of Abi Hurairah, نعم عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Actually, he said قال أبو القاسم. He said قال أبو القاسم. That Abu al-Qasim said, and Abu al-Qasim, this is the kunya of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the kunya of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he forbid that anyone else have this kunya. So you can have a son called Qasim. Now you can have a son called Qasim, la bas. But as far as taking that kunya where you're called Abu al-Qasim, no, this is for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam only. Ala kulli hal, Abu Hurairah, he would refer to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sometimes as Abu al-Qasim. Naam, Abu al-Qasim. So when he says Qala Abu al-Qasim, he means the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, إِذَا كَانَ أَحَدُكُمْ فِي الْفَيْءِ, that if one of you is sitting in the shade, if one of you is sitting in the shade, نعم, فَقَالَ عَنْهُ الظِّلُّ, and then the shade retracts, because you know the sun doesn't stay in one place. It moves throughout the day, okay? So as the sun moves, the shade moves. So if you're sitting in a place and then the shade starts to constrict, it starts to contract on you, starts to go back, right? So now a portion of your body is in direct sunlight, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَصَارَ بَعْضُهُ فِي الشَّمْسِ وَبَعْضُهُ فِي الظِّلِّ, so that a portion of him is in the sun and a portion of him is in the shade. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَلْيَقُمْ, then get up, stand up, get up, move from that situation, go either all the way into the shade, or if there's no more shade, then sit in the sun. Some of the ulama, they mention some of the wisdom for this, right? And they say is that the deen of Islam is a deen of justice, right? Is a deen of justice and of establishing that which is fair. Okay. Likewise, Imam Ibn Qayyim, he mentions the benefit of why of the prohibition of why we don't walk with one shoe. It's not permissible to walk with one shoe, right? It's not permissible. Either you walk with two shoes or you walk barefoot. But to walk with one shoe is not permissible. Why? Because in that case, you're being unfair to whatever foot doesn't have a shoe. Likewise, if some of you is in the sun and some of you is in the shade, then you're being unfair to whatever portion of your body is in the sun. You're being unfair to it. It's not getting any shade. So in that situation, you have to establish that which is fair. So either you get up and you put everything in the sun, or if there's more shade left, you get up and put everything in the shade, right? But you don't sit half and half. Nah. It's like you don't walk half and half. One shoe, other shoe gone. Just one, no. Either barefoot or two shoes. That's it, right? And that is to establish the fairness to your body. Be fair to yourself, you know. Ala kulli hal, that's the third issue connected to the sittings, is that you don't sit half in the shade and half in the sun, either all in the shade or all in the sun. The fourth issue, as relates to the majalis, the etiquettes pertaining to the gatherings and the sittings, is that وَلَا يُفَرِّقْ بَيْنَ اثْنَيْنِ إِلَّا بِإِثْنِهِمَا, is that you don't separate between two people except with their permission. If two people are sitting there, you don't come in now and start moving people. Hey, watch out. Let me get there. And then you sit down in between two people. That's rude. That's rude. That's not, that's not good manners. It's very disrespectful. So you don't do that unless you have permission. If you have permission, for example, there were two brothers sitting together, and you want to talk to brother A and brother B were sitting together. You wanted to talk to brother A. You want to tell him something, for example, right? Or you came late to the class, but you had some books that brother A asked you to pick up from his room, from the dorm. So you got the books for him, and now you bring him to class. Or you stopped by the bookstore on the way there, and you picked him up a book, because he didn't have the text of class we're going over. For example, I'm just bringing examples, okay? So you get there, you see brother A, he's sitting next to brother B. So then you ask him, you say, you ask brother B, please, can I sit right here? Can I sit between y'all real fast? So on and so forth. I want to give him something. And he says, okay, no problem. And then you sit down and you open your book bag and you give him the book that you got for him. No problem, because you sought their permission, okay? But to come there and just tell people move and get out the way, I'm gonna sit here, that's not permissible. That's not permissible. You're not allowed to do that, right? And one of the reasons, and I want you to reflect upon this, there are many there are things in which the Sharia has come to establish, right? One of the things that the Sharia has come to establish is brotherhood, from the maqasid, from that which is intended by the establishment of the Sharia is brotherhood, is unity, right? So anything that will break the unity is prohibited. Anything that will cause malice and enmity between people and become a source of anger and hatred between people is not permissible. For an example of this, is like this is why you don't outbid your brother, or not outbid. I'm sorry. You don't undercut your brother. So if brother Ahmed selling this, you and brother Ahmed sell the same thing, right? And then brother Ahmed is selling at fair market value of this price. Now you want to come and you want to steal his customers. So you tell his customers, now I'm going to sell it for way cheaper. Come, but don't forget him. Buy from me. That's not permissible to undercut your brother. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ tell you don't do it. That's why it's not permissible. But from the wisdoms on why we don't do it is because it's going to cause enmity between. Now Ahmed is going to feel a way about you, and he should. He's like, yeah, you're going to undercut me like that. Stealing my customers. You know what I mean? That's uncalled for. So because it will cause enmity, it's not permissible, right? Or from the wisdom, it's not permissible because it will cause enmity. Likewise, you don't try to marry the fiance of your brother. If your brother has made intentions he wants to marry sister so-and-so, then you don't come now and step to her father and say, nah, let me get her because I'm better than him, so on and so forth. No, it's not permissible. Why? That's going to cause enmity. He's going to develop a hatred for you. Even if you get rejected, he's going to develop hatred for you because now you presented yourself as this, very disrespectful, unscrupulous type of individual. There's people not going to like you. You understand? So those things to maintain relationships and so on and so forth, anything that will violate that, you can't do it. So from the things that will cause hatred and enmity is if you come and you start bushing people and then sitting between two people, because the natural response of an individual is going to be, who does this guy think he is? How are you going to come here and just mush me out the way and just sit right here? Squiggle your way in, squeeze your way in and sit right. What are you doing? Who are you? It's going to cause problems. You understand? So it's not permissible to do the likes of these things. It's not permissible to come to a gathering where the people are sitting close-knit to one another. Then you separate them and sit in the middle, unless you ask their permission because of, whatever reason that you have that you want to sit in that particular spot. Now, that is in gatherings that are of traditional gatherings where people are sitting close-knit close to one another. All right. This does not apply when you're in gatherings and people are not sitting close to one another. So you're in gatherings, for example, like in that classroom scenario, you come into a classroom, teacher tells you, sit wherever, no problem. Everybody grab a seat. So now, when you go to grab a seat, one person grabbed a seat here, and then there's like 3-4 seats between him and the next person. In that scenario, it's no problem. You can come and you can sit in any of those seats between them two, because it's no problem. It's not going to cause any problems. You're not going to get that same reaction of someone saying, oh, this guy think he is. Why are you going to sit right here? No one's going to say that. No one's going to feel like that. Okay? However, I want to add, you have to be able to read the room, though. Read the room, assess the situation. If it's a situation like that, right? Like on a plane, for example. If you're on a plane, for example, and we're not talking about with social distancing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just ordinary situations, Juyaanee, pre-coronavirus, situation, no social distancing. You're on a plane, for example. The plane is not full, okay? So the stewardess tells everyone pretty much sit where you want to sit. Yeah, you had assigned seats, whatever, it don't matter. Sit wherever you want to sit. And they have rows that are 3 seats to the row, right? There are rows that are 3 seats to the row. Although everyone is sitting where they want to sit, it's not wise in that scenario to go to a row that's 3 seats and now you're gonna want to sit in the middle, because they're gonna look at you like, what's wrong with this person? The plane is not full. Why you want to sit here? We sat like this to have elbow room, so we're not squished on top of one another. Why you want to make us now feel uncomfortable? Because you're going to want to come and sit right in the middle of us. Out of all the seats in the plane, you want to sit here for what? Don't sit here. Sit somewhere else. So you have to read the situation, because in a situation like that, then to sit in that open seat between two people, that will not be the thing to do. But rather, go sit somewhere else and give everybody their elbow room that they're looking for. However, if that's not the situation, and it's in a situation like in the class, for example, in a conference room or what have you, and there's no problem because there are plenty spaces that are open between two people, then you can sit in any of those open spaces and it's not a problem. It's not a problem, right? But in traditional sittings, where the people are sitting close to one another, do not separate between two people. Likewise, the 5th one is وَلَا تُقِمْ أَحَدًا مِنْ مَجْلِسِهِ, and don't make anyone get up from their sitting. If you go to a place of sitting, you go to a gathering, don't make someone get up. Don't come there and tell a person, no, yo, get up, let me get that seat. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because even though they may give you the seat, you may put something in that person's heart against you. You may put something in that person's heart against you. Or they may tell you, man, get out of here, and you may start an argument unnecessarily, right? So don't tell anyone to get up, right? Nah. However, the Shaykh, he mentions, but there is an exception to this rule. There's an exception to this rule. That is in the case where if you're in a type of gathering where there are certain seats assigned to certain individuals, right? Let's say it's like an official gathering, for example. If you come into a courtroom, for example, okay? If you come into the courtroom and there's a place in the courtroom where the lawyers are supposed to sit, where the judiciary is supposed to sit, where the plaintiff and the like and is supposed to sit, then of course if you're sitting in one of their places, then the lawyer, for example, the Mahami, for example, he can come and tell you, could you please sit somewhere else, please, because this is where he's supposed to sit, right? and so on and so forth. If you come and you sit where the judge is supposed to sit, for example, right, and these official sittings, then the judge can tell you, could you move, please, because this is where the judge is supposed to sit, and so on and so forth, right? So in these type of official type of gatherings where you have seats that are assigned for whoever, maybe it's your company, so the manager is supposed to sit here, or the CEO is supposed to sit in this place, and so on and so forth. So you don't sit where the CEO is supposed to sit. And the CEO comes in and asks you to get up, then that doesn't fit this rule. He's not saying, oh man, you got bad manners. You ain't supposed to be asking me to get up. I said, well, I want to say anybody supposed to tell me to get up. No, man, that's you understand. That's why it's incumbent to not just learn the religion and learn the rules, but you have to learn how and when to apply them, how and when they are to be applied, right? And this is the benefit of sitting with the people of knowledge. This is the benefit of sitting with the people of knowledge, because they explain these things to you. Whereas if you go through just the rules in a book per se, you may not necessarily walk away with how to apply those rules. You may not necessarily walk away with how to apply those rules. But when you sit with the people of knowledge, they explain to you how rules are supposed to be applied. And this is very important. This is what we get when we sit with the people of knowledge. This is what we learn when we sit with the people of knowledge. So this is why it is encouraged to sit with the people of knowledge and to benefit from the people of knowledge. So the Shaykh, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he mentions that if it is a sitting like an official sitting and so on and so forth, then you could be asked to move, given that situation. If you're in a seat that has been assigned or is customarily for someone else to be in, then if you're there, then you could be asked to relocate, and that's not a problem. The sixth affair from the 8 issues that the Shaykh wants to mention as relates to the etiquettes and the protocols of the gatherings is in his statement, وَفْسَحْ لِمَنْ دَخَلَ, is that make room for the person who comes, right? So if you're in a situation, especially if the space is limited, and as we know, when we sit, even in close proximity, we sit with enough space between us so that there's a level of comfortability, right? We're not sitting like on top of each other, but we're sitting with enough room. There's a comfortability, so there is some kind of space. So the point is that sometimes a little more space than others, you may be able to move over to make room for someone to come and sit next to you, right? And if it's in a situation of such where the people are close knit, but there is still some room, and if someone comes, then you want to make room for him. Why? Because this is going to help build the brotherhood, because the brother's going to remember, oh, subhanAllah, I came there and they were very nice to me. They try to make room for me. You understand? As opposed to if a person were to come to the sitting and maybe there was a little room, maybe, and a person come and act like you want to sit down, and then you go like this, right? No, not here. Go sit somewhere else. No, not here. Sit over there. What's going to happen? He's not going to like you. He's going to have a problem with you because you didn't make room for him, and you could have made room for him. So we have been commanded. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us. Allah ta'ala, he says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, idha qila lakum tafassahu fil majalis, fafsahu. That all you who believe, if it is said to you, make room in the gathering, then make room. If it's said to you, make room in the gathering, then make room. Yafsahillahu lakum. Then Allah will make room for you, for lack of a better term. Then Allah will make room for you, for lack of a better term. But we'll come, and inshallah ta'ala, Shaykh is going to explain what that means. So he says, إِذَا قِيلَ لَكُمْ, if it is said to you, تَوَسَّعُوا, spread out, make some room, let them give them room to sit down, make some room. So if it's said to you, make some room, right? Then make room, and then Allah Ta'ala, He will give you ample room, and then Allah Ta'ala, He will give you ample room. The ulama, they say, the Shaykh, he mentions, Shaykh Salih al-Usaymi, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he mentions, وَتَوْسِعُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْجَالِسِ, and the making room of Allah for the individual. Then he said, then this could be from two different types. أَحَدُهَا, the first of them, تَوْسِعٌ حَسِيٌّ, then this will be a physical making of room, meaning that if you strive to make room so your brother can sit down, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will make it as such that you all will have room. بِأَنْ يَطِيبَ لَهُمْ مقام, al-maqam, that He will make the sitting good for him. So in other words, if you ask to make room and you make room, then everybody be able to sit down and they're not going to be uncomfortable. Then Allah Ta'ala, He will make room for you so that everyone will be able to sit down and he won't be uncomfortable. نعم. فيجد في جلوسه راحة. So he will find inside of his sitting ease. He will find inside of his sitting ease. نعم. فلا يضيق أحدهم على غيره. So they will not make it super uncomfortable and tight for someone else, for those sitting adjacent to them. The second meaning, التوسيع معنوي, is an abstract making of room, meaning النفوس. نعم. بأنفس النفوس, meaning that the temperament, the souls, the disposition will be at ease. You make room, you open up room for your brother to sit down. Your brother now, alhamdulillah, he squeezes and he sits down. What's going to happen is that everyone is going to feel some kind of comfort. You're going to feel the warmth that, subhanAllah, my brother, he made room for me. The brother that made room for you is going to feel the warmth. Alhamdulillah, I made room for my brother. He came, he sat next to me, right? And anyone has been in type of those situations, like especially in the circles of knowledge and so on and so forth. Like for example, myself, I have been in sittings of knowledge where people have made room for me. I come, after the dars has opened, for example, and they made room for me. In the haram, you find this a lot inside of the haram. The students of the mashayikh, they make room for you, right? And oftentimes they will make room for you, right? And then once they make room for you, and you're sitting there, and they realize, oh, you must be a visitor, or whatever the case is, you don't have the book. They'll come and they'll hit you with the elbow a little bit, nudge you and say, hey, here go the book, like read. And they'll put the book, and now you're reading from the book together. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. And it's a wonderful situation filled with love, compassion, brotherhood, so on and so forth. And you just feel really good. You feel really good. Now when the class is over, the brother may go his way, go your way. You may never see him again. But it's that love that was expressed in that time where he made room for you, share his book with you. At times maybe they may have a pen or extra siwak, something to give you a gift, like this, and so on and so forth. This has happened, in the circles of the mashayikh. You find this, abundantly. Walillah alhamd. And this is an example of what could be understood by that. When you make room, then the souls will be at ease and will feel the pleasure of that sitting, and so on and so forth. Now, and the like. And it's translated inside of the Noble Quran. They said Allah will give you ample room from His mercy. Allah will give you ample room from His mercy, which is also of extreme benefit. The seventh of the eighth is when you're in the majlis, then remember Allah. وَذْكُرِ اللَّهِ فِيهِ. Then remember Allah inside of the majlis. Now the remembrance of Allah, the Shaykh he mentions, is of two types. It can be by a person remembering, well, three types actually. It can be by a person remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نعم. فَيَحْضُرُ ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ فِي قَلْبِ الْعَبْدِ. نعم. So, that a person is remembering Allah inside of his heart. So the person's there in the majlis and they're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نعم. And then تارة بِلِسَانِهِ. And then sometimes they're remembering Allah ta'ala inside of the majlis with their tongues. For a person, for example, is inside of a majlis, for the majalis of ilm, and they're paying attention, then they're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with their heart, they're listening. نعم. And then when it comes mention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also with their tongues. And then sometimes inside of the sittings, you will combine the two, and this is how it's three. You will combine the first two, where you remember Allah Ta'ala with your heart and with your tongue simultaneously inside of the majlis. The ulama, they mention that Sheikh bin Baz and also Sheikh Al-Albani, hafidhahumullah ta'ala, they used to be like this. And others from the mashayikh, but these two in particular, from what was narrated unto me, that they used to be like this. That inside of the majlis, they would remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in an obvious way, but for those if they were listening or close enough to them and really, really watching them, then they had taken notice that while a person is asking a question or the Shaykh, he'll be remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala under his breath. He'll be remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala under his breath by saying, Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. Now, like, likewise, and then when the person will stop talking, then the Shaykh will answer the question. And then when the person was talking again, then the Shaykh will go back to remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this has been, again, narrated to the students, that this is what Sheikh bin Baz and Sheikh Albani, they should do a lot. They used to do a lot. But again, it was like inconspicuous. They didn't do it where, they did it where you had to catch them doing it. You understand? They didn't do it in such a way that was, everyone could see from afar. No, but they did it in a very easy way. Some of the advices that some of the scholars, they will give as relates to what could be said to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside of the majalis while trying to be inconspicuous, which that you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by trying to hide your good deed, is to say La ilaha illallah, because there are no letters inside of the kalima that require that you move your mouth. Now, so for example, those who can see the video, then you have an advantage over those who can't see the video. However, you can sit in the majlis and you can say La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. And you see, you don't see my mouth moving. You understand? And you can do that in the majlis, and you can hide your good deed. And you can hide your good deed. Now, and the hiding of good deeds is something that we should become accustomed to doing as a Salaf. They were accustomed to doing good deeds that they would hide. They were doing good deeds that they used to hide their good deed. You understand? And we should strive to do this. And there's a lot of reward in those deeds in which are hidden, those good deeds in which are hidden. Now, so strive to give sadaqah, don't nobody know about it. To pray some raka'ats in the nighttime, don't nobody know about it. You understand? To make dhikr, don't nobody know about it. From the human beings, of course. Because the only one that's important, the only one that needs to know is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala knows everything. Allah ta'ala knows everything. So hide your good deeds from the other human beings. So inside of the majlis, this is one of the adhkar, this is one of the remembrances the scholars, they advise the students of knowledge that they can say, so that they could get this and share from this reward while being in the majlis, making this dhikr, while not causing any disturbance, while not drawing any attention to yourself, so on and so forth, is by saying, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Now, but, and then eighthly and lastly, the Shaykh, he mentioned, this is what is meant by وَأَقَلُّهُ أَي أَقَلُّ ذِكْرٍ. Now, and that the least of it, like if you're in a sitting, and throughout the whole sitting, you did not remember Allah with your heart, you did not remember Allah on your tongue, right? Then the least of what you can do to establish the remembrance of Allah in the sitting is at the end of the sitting to say, Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Now, it's to say this dua at the end. So if there was no other remembrance mentioned in the whole of the gathering, then at the end, you say this, so that your sitting is not devoid from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Naam. And also, the Shaykh, he mentions that that this has been called kaffara. Naam. So that's what the Shaykh he mentioned. He said that وَأَقَلُّهُ كَفَّارَتُهُ, and the least of it that you can use to remember Allah is that which would be an expiation for the sitting. So at the end of the sitting, the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us to say this dua, and that this dua is an expiation for the sitting. So if there was something of error, wrong, inappropriate that was said or mentioned during the sitting, right? Then the saying of this dua at the end of the sitting, that it would, or this dhikr at the end of the sitting, that it would expiate whatever wrong slip of the tongue, like this, error, something inappropriate, whatever that was said in the sitting, it would be an expiation for those things. This etiquette is of extreme importance. Also, there's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that the Sahaba, during a gathering, and I'm going to leave this for your homework, inshallah ta'ala, it was mentioned before in khutub and the like, right? That the Prophet ﷺ, he used to make istighfar in the majlis. When he was sitting with the companions, he would make istighfar throughout the course of the majlis, inconspicuously. It wasn't extremely obvious, right? But some of the Sahaba they had taken notice, and they watched, and they watched, and they counted how many times the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this particular dhikr inside of the majlis, to show that what they're making dhikr when we're in a majlis for other people. This is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at the bare minimum, if we don't do it during the sitting, then at the end of the sitting, then we make the dua, yani for the kafara for the majlis. And the Shaykh, he mentions it was called the kafara of the majlis because it expiates whatever mistake that had taken place therein. Ala kulli hal, back to what I was saying, that's your homework, to find out what is that dua, what is that dhikr that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the majlis, who from the Sahaba counted it, and how many times was it? How many times did the Prophet ﷺ say it in one majlis? That's your homework. That's your homework, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah? And your homework is for you. I'm not going to come back and check it. You understand? Like, I'm not asking you to email me and send me. No, it's for you. It's for your own benefit. And like, and this is of extreme importance, because what? Is because every class, every sitting, of knowledge and so on and so forth, you're going to only truly benefit from it if you put into it. Now, you're only going to truly benefit from it if you put into it. If you're going to sit back and you're just going to just listen passively, and you know what I mean, and so on and so forth, then you're not really going to benefit from it. You're not going to benefit from it. You're going to forget most of what was mentioned. You're not going to be able to have it with you. You're not going to memorize nothing. You know what I mean, so on and so forth. Whereas if you go back now and you do your homework and you search and you research and so on and so forth, those things in which you gather from that way, in addition to what you pick up in class, those are things you find you hold on to a little more. You understand? So now the relevant material from the class, you remember that, and you remember what you did your homework on, right? There may be some other points in the class that escape you, but those things that were linked to you going back and doing further research on, those points you remember. Those points you remember, and they're easier for you to hold on and to retain. So I encourage the people, go back, look, find, inshallah ta'ala, this dhikr, find it, memorize it, utilize it, inshallah ta'ala, because it'll help your life be better. It'll help increase your life, and it'll help you increase your value as well as a Muslim. Be a better Muslim. Be a better Muslim. And this is what this is all about. This is what this is all about. Being a better Muslim, being a better Muslim, being a better Muslim. Like in the other class, we always start, ilmu rahma, irhamu ma fil ard, yarhamukum ma fis sama. The Prophet said, be merciful to those who are in the earth, and the one who is above the heavens will show you mercy. Ar-Rahimun yarhamuhum ar-Rahman. Those who are merciful, the most merciful will show the mercy. Irhamu man fil ard, yarhamukum ma fis sama. Be merciful to those who are in the earth, the one who's above the heavens will be merciful unto you. And then Sheikh Salih Abdis al-Sheikh, he mentions, and we start every other class with it. Now, al-ilmu rahma, نتيجته رحمة في الدنيا وغايته رحمة في الآخرة. That knowledge is mercy. The result of knowledge is mercy in this world, and the ultimate goal of knowledge is mercy in the hereafter. Now, so from that is that what we benefit ourselves of what we learn. We increase our quality. Now, so we become better Muslims. We learn, we do. We learn, we do. We learn, we do. So increase your quality, better yourself, be a better Muslim by doing these things, having good character, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reading the Quran, reading the Sunnah, living upon the guidance of the Quran, living upon the guidance of the Sunnah, living upon the guidance of the Salaf Salih, so on and so forth. Read their biographies so you can imitate them, be like them, act like them, and so on and so forth. This is what it's all about. This is what it means to be Sunni. This is what it means. This is what it means. Real, it's not just you running around talking and a Sunni, Salafi, Athari. Okay, but show. What are you showing? How are you improving yourself? How are you really upon that? Just saying it, that's not gonna cut it. But being about it, living it, that's what it's all about. Implementing it, that's what it's all about. Striving to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to die as those who are striving to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because your goal is what? That you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is happy with you. He is pleased with you. That's what it's all about. So that's what we have to strive to do, inshallah ta'ala. So these things, things will help. They help us, inshallah ta'ala. So go back, do that research, do that homework, find that out, implement it, learn it, utilize it, inshallah ta'ala. Wa ila liqa. Until next time we meet. نكتفي بهذا القدر وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وجزاكم الله خيرا.